All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rechakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of Great Millstone, who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations be unto the Akim, out here pushing this gospel and truth and sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon all your houses. This is the brother Quana Wath, come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. And in this lesson, right, I ultimately want to speak about how we are pilgrims and strangers, right, in this current world, right, and that we ultimately desire, right, a better country, right, which would be what? The kingdom of Yahweh Bashem El Shai, where righteousness dwelleth, right? Let's go ahead and grab that first, and we'll come back to this. In 1 Peter's 3, it's like a 2 Peter's 3 and verse 12, right? Verse 13 being the point, right? It says, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, right? The promise of Yahweh Bashem El Shai, right? Look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness, right? And that's not speaking about an actual new planet being created, right? This is speaking about, right, the current state of the world, right, being changed, right, to the state in which it's supposed to be in. Right now we understand that Esau, Edom, right, the wicked according to the scriptures is in control. Right, but there's ultimately going to be, you know, a change of command, if you will. Right, Esau is going to be taken out of power, you know, and a righteous rulership is going to be established. Right, starting with Yahweh Shai, the King of Kings. Right, Yahweh Shai is going to come and cast down all rule, power, and authority. Right. Starting with Esau, Edom, all the way down to even these, you know, these heathen nations, right? And set up a righteous rulership, right? Starting with Yahweh Shai, the 144,000, and the elect, the rest of the elect of the nation of Israel, and eventually 2/3, right, of the nation of Israel that perish on this side here in America, and the wicked Israelites that perish, you know, on this side, right, scattered abroad, right? They will eventually come back to the loins of the elect, right, in the kingdom, right, into everlasting righteousness, into everlasting rulership, right? This is what we are looking for, right? But in this current world, right, the state that it's in, right, this is not our end all be all, right? We understand that there is something that is, you know, going to come after this, right? Just as our forefathers knew as well, right? Going back to that Hebrews, the 11th chapter, starting at verse 8, it says, by faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not knowing whither he went, right? And again, it's by faith, right? And through faith, right, we're walking on that same path, right? Seeing that joy set before us as Yahweh Shai did, right? The kingdom of Yahweh Bashem El Shai and all the, you know, all the things that come with it, you know, and staying the course, right? Lord, will we be of that number? You know, we're going to make it, right? Verse 9, it says, by faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is the Most High. And again, it's speaking about the kingdom, right? It says, through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, right? And was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable, right? The nation of Israel, right? Scriptures talk about how the nation of Israel, right, is as the sands of the sea, you know? And when you ultimately go into, right, the sea and how, the ecosystem and how the sand is created, right, goes back to the parrotfish, right, which is a big old fish, right, that has, basically its mouth, is like two big bones, and what it does is it scrapes the algae, from the rocks, and the the rocks that it does, scrape off, right, it ultimately processes it through its body, and it basically poops out sand, right? So the sand is ever being created, hence the reason why it says innumerable, right? Just a quick little fact, man, which you can go and look it up. But verse 13, it says, these all died in faith, not having received the promise, right? Because the kingdom of Yahweh Shem El Shai has not yet been established, right? We are again, right, in that same position of seeing that joy being set before us. But we have to, like Abraham, right, prove our faith, right, in order to be able to receive it, right? And we know that according to all the signs that have been given, right, we're in the time where the kingdom of Yahweh Shem El Shai is going to be established. It's not that far off, right? It could be months, it could be weeks, right? But it's definitely not, 5-10 years out. No. It's very close, man. Right? Again, I'll read it, verse 13. It says, these all died in faith, not having received the promise, but having seen them afar off, right? And were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on earth, right? Strangers and pilgrims, right? Let's look up that word, strangers. Stranger, right? Unknown person, right? Foreign, one who comes from another country, right? Stranger. Not, right here, here's the point, right? Not a citizen of a nation, not a member of a religious group, craft, or family. Right here. Here's the point, right? Traveler, transient, right? Traveler, a transient. Let's see if there's a little bit more. Right, we're ultimately nomads, man. Right? And I was looking up on Pinterest. Let me see if I can pull it up again. Right? Because I looked up nomad, right? And let's see if it pulls up. There was a heavy definition that it pulled up, right? Oh, right here, nomad, right? It says a member of a group of people who have no fixed home and move according to the seasons from place to place in search of food, water, and grazing land. A person with no fixed residence who roams about, a wanderer, right? We are those nomads, man, right? Spiritual nomads, right? This is not our place of rest. We're looking for the kingdom of Yahweh Shem El Shai, right? As the scriptures say, right? This is not our rest, man. Right? Micah, let's go to it. Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. It says, arise ye and depart, right? Spiritually depart from this place, man. Right? For this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you even with the sword of destruction. And when you go back to, a nomad, right? A nomad, ultimately isn't attached, to those things, right? In which, he has, at wherever he set up shop, he's not attached to that area. He's not attached to, the things, that place ultimately provides for him, because he knows eventually, he's going to travel and he's going to come to a better spot, right? Something that has it might be better for him, right? Better resources, right? The food might be better. It might be more plentiful, right? So he's going to continue to, move on, right? Not being attached, to any material thing. And this is exactly how we have to be, right? Especially since this place is polluted, right? Everything that we see here, the food, the air, the water, right? Everything is polluted, right? It's you know, it's extremely, it's damn near impossible being healthy in this place, man. It's damn near impossible. So why would you want, why would you be attached to something that's ultimately killing you? Fuck that. No, we want to live. Where food is meant to, ultimately give you, give you energy, life, when you eat it. Right? But, you eat, and brothers have testimonies, right? When you eat this food, man, it makes you feel sluggish, makes you tired. It's not like, 15, 20 years ago when you used to eat, food and it was so good, man. It gave you the itis because you just want to keep eating, No, you might even just have a few bites of something in the current state in which the world is in, right? The current state of the food, and you just automatically feel sluggish, right? It's not the itis, it's GMO, it's fake. Right, it's nothing but chemicals. It slows your body down, right? The food that we're supposed to eat is supposed to give our body energy and life, right? Heal us, right? The Lord said He made medicines out of the earth, but yet the same things that we eat, even though we try our best to be healthy, those things are still fake. They're still polluted with pesticides and different chemicals being sprayed on them, right? So you don't want to, be attached to these things, man. We got to be, we have to be those spiritual nomads, right? Seeking a better country, right? Let's go back to that Hebrews, right? Let's continue on. Hebrews 11 and 14. It says, "For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, and heavenly. Wherefore the Most High is not ashamed to be called their power, for He hath prepared for them a city." Right. And that again, right, we understand that, Yahweh Shai, He said, right, "I go to prepare a place for you." Right. And that's talking about the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Shai. And we understand that according to, right, the Lord's Prayer, that this, says, right, in the prayer, right, "As it is in heaven," right? Matter of fact, let's grab that. Here's what Matthew's the 6th chapter, right? It says right here, this is Yahweh Shai's words, right? Matthew 6 and 9. It says, "After this manner, therefore pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven." So Yahweh Shai, right, is up in the heavens, right? Basically creating the blueprint, right? Creating the blueprint for when the kingdom gets established here on earth, right? When Yahweh Shai comes, right? Then it'll be built exactly according to that blueprint, if you will, right? Just to give you, proper understanding, this is what's coming and this is what we're waiting for, right? We're looking at what we see here and this is fucking bullshit, man. We understand that this place is going to be destroyed and we want it to be destroyed, man. We want it to be, moved out the way, right? Because we understand that, pursuing the second edge of the 4th chapter, the 28th verse, it says what? "But as concerning the things whereof thou ask me, I will tell thee. For the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come," right? And this place is wicked. This place is evil, It says, verse 29, it says, "If therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good," right? So in order for the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Shai to come, right, and for us to receive rest, and in order for us to, to truly be able to kick up our feet and have joy of our children and to truly, relax, man, because we don't know what that's like, right? We're still under the curse of, Adam, where it says that by the sweat of thy brow shalt thou get thy bread, roughly paraphrasing, right? So we're not, which I believe is in Deuteronomy, or it's like in Genesis, the third chapter, if I'm not mistaken, you know. So, we got to constantly work our asses off, right, in order to make ends meet, right? Not even to, to have money, in abundance, right? It's literally to make ends meet so we can barely get by, If you got a big family, it's, you got to have 2 and 3 jobs, or one really good paying job, if the Lord, sees fit to, bless you with that. But hey, we understand that these jobs are now few and far between. You got 105 million Americans that are now jobless, right? And there's no, the job market is slim pickings, So this shit right here, man, is truly is bullshit, man. You should be in the mindset of wanting this place to go down, right? So that the kingdom can come, right? Constantly, as the scriptures say, right? In what is that? Second Esdras, I think it's actually the 3rd chapter, right? It's the 3rd chapter. Let me grab it, right? Because this is exactly what we should be doing. Second Esdras 2, I always get that mixed up. Second Esdras 2 and verse 13, it says, "Go and ye shall receive. Pray for few days unto you, that they may be shortened. The kingdom is already prepared for you. Watch," right? And call Lord Yahweh Shem El Shai, I completely forgot that it said that, right? The last little part, the kingdom is already prepared for you. Watch, right? Yahweh Shai is in the kingdom, is on the right hand of the Heavenly Father, preparing the kingdom, man, and it's being set up, right? And prepared, right? For those strangers, those pilgrims who through faith, right, are denying this current world and the thing that are in the pseudo resources that it offers, in search and want for a better country, right? The kingdom of Yahweh Shem El Shai, casting these things, aside, right? For the things that, for what it is, right? Something that has no value. I remember the brother Yawana, man, the brother Yawana, beautiful brother through the Spirit, man. He made a statement, man, some years ago, man, and since then I've heard, other brothers, make those statements. We're giving up nothing, right, for everything, right? Because really this world and what it offers, right, it has no value to us, man. It has value to these other people, right? These worldly ass people, but it has no value to us because what we're going to receive, right, in return is far greater, right? It's far greater. So really, we're by you denying this world, right? You denying, and not being attached to this world. Again, you're denying really nothing, and seeking for everything. You're denying death and seeking life, right? That's the spirit that you have to be in, man. Right? That's the spirit that our forefathers were in, especially Abraham. Again, we just read it, right? He admitted, hey, I'm a sojourner, I'm a stranger, seeking a better country, seeking the kingdom, right? And again, that's the spirit that we're supposed to be in, right? Because really, fuck this world, man. All right, we want this place to go down, and soon it is, right? And it's going down real quick, man. Fuck this place, man. But I just wanted to get that out, man. Lord will was edifying. Lord will straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim, Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders, great millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.